Hi, my name is Chris Carnevale, and I'm the Climate Advocacy Director with the Southern Alliance for Clean Energy. Thanks for joining today, our webinar about the clean energy generation. Next slide, please. So today on the webinar, we are going to give an introduction to SACE, the Southern Alliance for Clean Energy, and the clean energy generation movement. Then we're going to talk about the clean energy generation in action and how you can get involved. We'll get into this more later, but just as a little preview, one of the ways we're going to talk about how all of us can get involved in the clean energy generation is by implementing measures at our own homes for making our homes more energy efficient, for increasing our use of clean energy and reducing our reliance on fossil fuels. And we are going to have a tour of SACE's executive director, Steve Smith's home, and look at some of the measures that he and his family have done to make their home more energy efficient and increase their clean energy while reducing their reliance on fossil fuels. At the end of the presentation, we are going to have a question and answer session, and we will work to get through as many questions as we can in the time that we have. We are going to have attendees' lines muted to preserve sound quality. So for the presentation and for the Q&A period, if you do have a question, please just put it into the Q&A box on Zoom, and we'll work to get through as many of those as we can. If you have any technical issues, please just send us a message in the chat, and we'll work to address your issues and help you get Zoom working like you need it to. We are recording this webinar, and so we will email you a recording afterwards. And finally, I wanted to let you know that we will be discussing some resources and materials, some of which are more technical in nature. So we will provide those resources to you afterwards by email so that you can reference those for yourself. So again, this webinar is being hosted by us at the Southern Alliance for Clean Energy, or SACE. SACE is a nonprofit organization that promotes responsible and equitable energy choices to ensure clean, safe, and healthy communities throughout the Southeast. As a leading voice for energy policy in our region, SACE is focused on transforming the way we produce and consume energy in the Southeast. I want to take a moment to thank all of SACE's members on this call and encourage those of you who are not members to join us today at cleanenergy.org. So with that, I will turn it over to SACE's Executive Director, Dr. Stephen Smith.
Great. Thank you, Chris. And thank you, everybody, for joining. Excited to share the information we're going to share today about some work that we've done at the house. But first, I want to introduce the clean energy generation concept that we're developing, and a number of you are joining us in really trying to transform the world that we live in. The clean energy generation is a double entendre. We're talking about the moment, the generational moment that we are in. Each and every one of us alive has a unique opportunity to make the world a better place, and it's a generational challenge with the climate disruption that we're seeing. And also the solution to the climate crisis and the climate disruptive challenge that we're seeing is to get more clean energy generation on the ground and to transform the way we produce and consume energy through clean energy, generating more clean energy and generating energy more efficiently. So next slide. So when I'm talking about this issue with our staff, when I'm talking to people outside, it truly is. I mean, we've got to hold this paradox that we are living in the worst of times and the best of times simultaneously. Now, honestly, I have to take a moment and just recognize the human suffering that's going on across the world in the wars, and a lot of innocent people that are being affected by the situation, in the Middle East, the situation in Ukraine. There's lots of really challenging things. But on top of these human challenges, there is climatic challenges. And so it really is a very, very difficult time. Last night, I was shocked to see that a tropical storm in the Pacific went from literally a tropical storm predicted to hit Acapulco, Mexico, as a tropical storm. In less than 12 hours, it went from a tropical storm to a Category 5 hurricane. It's never happened before. It was the most rapid advancement of a tropical system to go from a tropical storm to a Cat 5 hurricane in 12 hours. We're not in Kansas anymore, folks. We are truly disrupting our climate. We've got to hold that reality because that is very real. This image here, this slide of, the absolute curtain of forest fires across the whole country of Canada over the summer and brought down the smoke and the particulate matter from the fires, all the way down into the southeast. We saw all kinds of disruptive things. These sea surface temperatures that led to the explosion of the tropical storm last night. We saw temperatures over 105 degrees in the Florida Keys, 5 feet down in the water, severe climate, coral bleaching. These are all very real. But at the same time, we are seeing phenomenal deployment, movement, advancement of clean energy technologies. We're moving away from fossil fuels at a rate that has never been done before. And, since fossil fuels have become the dominant energy source. So we are seeing true advances. And so what we're going to talk about today, what we talk about as part of the clean energy generation is providing a vision for where we want to go. In these very trying times, we've got to lock and keep our eye on the prize about how we create the solutions that are going to move us beyond this crisis. And so I encourage each and every one of you, if you haven't already, please join us, become part of the clean energy generation, take that personal commitment to become part of the solution instead of part of the problem. So with that, we'll move on to the next slide. So Cary, you want to take this?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. So I'm Cary Ritzler. I'm the Climate Advocacy Manager for the Southern Alliance for Clean Energy, and I've been leading sort of the grassroots action level work of the clean energy generation. And since we launched in June, we've had just a tremendous amount of success and a lot of fun. Our members since June, since June, have submitted 7 letters to the editor around the region and 3 op-eds. At least 4 of those letters to the editor have been published as of today. We've delivered letters to members of Congress with over 30 signatures of constituents supporting the carbon rules, the carbon power plant rules proposed by the EPA, and also supporting continued IRA funding as we go into more budget discussions in Congress. Our members made over 800 comments to the EPA supporting strong carbon power plant rules during the open comment period. And our members have been participating in community engagement events around the region. And we encourage you to get involved. We are only as strong as the number of us that show up. And we at SACE are committed to sharing with you the information you need, but we cannot get to every community. So we want to share information and resources to you to help you tell your neighbors, your friends, and your family about the resources that are available, about the opportunities that are out there, and about the chances that we have to take action. So we encourage you to get involved. Let's go to the next slide. Today, I want to tell you about 2 of the things that we've really been pushing and trying to get the word out about. These are some of the major opportunities that came out of the Inflation Reduction Act. First are the tax credits, the federal home energy tax credits. These are income tax credits. So if you have a taxable income, you can use tax credits to reduce the amount of taxes you owe at the end of the year. I want to say right now that neither I nor anyone else on staff at SACE is a tax expert. And so we are not here to advise you in your in taxes. And we encourage everyone to talk to a tax expert before they make purchases to make sure that you're eligible and that they they can help you. But the tax credits are historic. They go for 10 years. Through 2032, and they include things like insulation and ceiling, upgrading your electrical system, new efficient heating and air conditioning systems, efficient electric water heaters, doors and efficient doors and windows. They even include on-site solar, for example, rooftop solar, or systems that are mounted on a pole in your yard. There are tax credits for battery storage for your house, and there are tax credits for electric vehicles and charging stations. So there are tons of tax credits. They are available as of January 2023. So these are currently in play right now, and it may be that you can take advantage of them to do something at your home. Again, check with an expert before you do. But that's just one of the programs that we've been telling people about. So if we can go to the next slide. This is about the tax credits. Like I said, they are available right now. So people that are eligible can take advantage of them. The federal home energy rebate programs are another Inflation Reduction Act program that we're very excited about. These are not available right now. So no one can access rebate programs, but these act a little bit differently than a tax credit when they when they get set in place in the states in our region that are pursuing tax energy rebate programs. These will be point of sale rebates. So when someone buys an item, then they will get a rebate on it. And the rebate programs are include things like heating and cooling with heat pumps. They include electric stoves and ovens, again, electrical panel work and wiring, air sealing, insulation, and ventilation, and other energy saving measures that you can do on your home to lower your bills and make your home more healthy and comfortable. And they also, of course, save energy so they can reduce pollution over the long term for us all. The rebate programs are still in development by states, and so they'll be expected to start in 2024. These are some of the things that we go into on our clean energy generation calls. If we can go to the next slide. Like I said, we want all of you to get involved. We want to share the information that you need so that you can take action. And we want to hear from you. We want to know about what's going on in your communities, in your homes. We want to know why you are interested in showing up to this and why you care about the energy transition. So all of these things are really important for us to know, and we want to be sharing this information with you. So I encourage you to get involved with the clean energy generation however you can. I think Amy has put the link in the chat to get involved, to join. That way you'll get our emails, you'll get notifications. We really encourage you to share your why. Why do you sign up? Why were you led to come to this today? Your stories inspire us and inspire others, and they will help bring more people into this movement, which will grow it and make it more successful. We'd love your help spreading the word. And then we also have community teams. So if you are interested in meeting people in your area who have also expressed interest, or who are also looking for ways to take action, then we would like to help you connect and help you get out there in your community and share the word about our programs. We also we have a newsletter that we send out for clean energy generation to share resources. So we encourage you to sign up. Our next call is going to be on, I think it's November 10th. I think Amy put the link for that. The member calls, you can come on. It's a Zoom call where you can chat to other people and meet other people around the region. So I'd love to see y'all on there. Love to hear your stories and find out what's going on in your community. So please jump in and get involved. I'm going to turn it back over to Steve to show us how some of these energy saving measures can actually work in real life in his home.
Great. All right. Well, thank you, Cary. And so what I want to do is just take us through a little tour of our home. This is a photograph of our home. You can see we've tried to get rid of a lot of our lawn, which is something that we try to do. We're growing various fruits and berry bushes and everything. But this is our house, and basically we moved in 2006. My wife and I were having had our son, and we were thinking that we'd be here temporarily and we build another energy efficiency house, and we began to look at that. But then we decided that actually investing in this house would be a smarter and more environmentally friendly thing to do. So we took a very deliberate effort to think, what are the steps to making our home an energy efficient home, a home that is effectively, we were striving for what we call net zero, meaning that we were able to generate as much power from our home as we consumed. And I'll talk a little bit about that. So those were some of the original thoughts as we map this out. And ultimately, what we did was be very systematic about, okay, what are the steps that we can afford? What are the most logical first steps in case we can't get any further? What are the things that are sort of a no regret strategy as we move along? And I'm going to take you through a number of things that we've done over the years, but let me emphasize, first and foremost is always energy efficiency. And the greenest electron is the electron you never use. So with that, let's start with the first video. Reed, if you want to pop that one up. Okay, no sound.
Cooktop that basically is all electric, will actually heat the water faster than gas, and is incredibly efficient. And these are the way to go. We also redid all the windows and made sure that they were all double pane, highly insulated. You know, again, these are the things that you do at first to make sure that you're getting the energy efficiency savings, because that's the most important piece. Insulation of the house and other things.
So basically, I think we go on to the next slide. Energy efficiency is the name of the game. I cannot emphasize that. That is the gift that keeps giving back. So whether it's something as simple as just changing out your light bulbs to, you know, LED bulbs, tightening up your home by finding air leaks, doing insulation, ultimately looking at things like replacing your windows, replacing your appliances. Look, we need to electrify everything. That is ultimately going to be the name of the game to solve the climate crisis. We need to electrify everything. And as we do electrify everything, there are many, many energy efficient savings, because the electric efficiency is so much better than relying on fossil fuels. And so electrify everything is the mantra, and do it in the most energy efficient way. So you saw that the sound was off, but that induction stovetop was an example. The windows, we did a number of things in the attic to insulate. We actually did bring in a home rater to where they did what's called the blower door test, where they actually, you know, put a fan in the door, and they actually create a vacuum in the house, and they can go around and find leaks, air leaks, because sealing those air leaks and tightening up the house is all about the first step. So you know, before you do anything else, focus on energy efficiency, because that will immediately start saving you money, and it will allow you to begin to do other things that you build on. But just every step, take the first solid step first. And with all these things coming out of the Inflation Reduction Act, there is now both going to be direct rebates and tax savings. And then a number of our regional utilities now are starting to step up a little bit more in their commitment to do energy efficiency. So there's lots and lots of programs out there that you can take advantage of that will help you not only save the money through your energy savings, but also save money in your purchase that makes your home more efficient. Okay, so let's move on to the next video. Reed, if we can.
So one of the things to think about when you put solar on your home is that ideally you want to have a south-facing roof, south or maybe slightly southwest. We have a pretty good south-facing roof, but on our north side, we actually have used the north side of the roof to actually be where we put the solar tubes through, which are the penetrations here that then bring natural daylight into the house. And they're all along the north side of our roof. We have a total of 9 of them throughout our house. And they're quite remarkable because you literally, when a cloud goes over, they'll kind of dim, just like when you're outside. Sometimes when we're having a lightning storm, you'll actually see the lightning come through the light from the lightning will actually come through it. So it gives you a real sense of being, connected with what's going on in the natural world in your home, as opposed to just having an electric light. So you can actually turn on the lights, and it brings, at night, it's a traditional light, but during the day, it actually is using the sun.
So, the next slide. So this the solar tubes. So solar tubes are a relatively inexpensive way to bring natural daylighting in. There's a lot of studies that show natural daylighting, it actually helps people in their mood and their physical and mental health. We have 9 of these. As the video indicates, you can actually have a traditional light in there. So at night they can operate as a light, but during the day they're flooding in, just really beautiful daylight. A lot of people, we have them in several of our bathrooms, and people will go in the bathroom and they'll like come out and say, how do I turn the light out? We're like, well, no, it's not, you can't turn it out because it's just these solar tubes that come through. Let me remind people, everything that we're talking about is part of a blog that we have put up on our website. So you can re-look at these videos. You can actually see additional information about the installation of these, because these were the next thing. After we did some of the real basic energy efficiency, the next thing we did was actually bring in the natural daylighting. 1, because of, again, the physical and mental health. 2, it's just really fun to have this natural daylighting all throughout the house. It just uplifts your spirit, and it saves money because, sometimes you have to turn on the lights when the sun's out, and it's like kind of crazy. You're going to hear me say multiple times, when the sun's out, you really shouldn't be turning on your lights if you can avoid it, because we can have these natural daylighting. And when the sun's out, we should not be burning fossil fuels, because the sun gives us all the power. It's our closest star. It brings plenty of power to the face of the earth. It's all about capturing and using it in an energy efficient way. So I classify the solar tubes as a relatively low cost. There's a link on the blog about if you want to learn more about these. There's all types of daylighting opportunities, but I really think taking advantage of daylighting really will save you money and make your home more pleasant. Okay, so let's go on to the next one, I think.
This is our solar home. You've got actually several different solar systems that are on the roof here. If you look to the far right, you'll see 2 solar thermal. They're the larger panels. They actually heat hot water and are part of the sun heats the water for our hot water heater. So those are the 2. And then you have 36 of the older panels that were put on in 2009. They're part of the TVA program, and we sell that back to the grid, about 7.3 kilowatts of solar. And then we built an addition in the 2019-2020 timeframe. And these panels here are about 3.4 kilowatts. They are now behind the meter. We do not sell that to the grid. We actually run them into a Tesla Powerwalls, which is a storage system. And then we basically store that power and use it behind the meter at our home. So these are 3 different applications of using solar energy to actually heat hot water, feed back to the grid, or to actually go to a storage system.
Yeah, so in the spirit of energy efficiency, the solar thermal, and that's the panels you see on the left. This is a Schuko system that was put in 2008. If you think about it, when you bring the water from your from the main city water, it's going to come to your house, anywhere from 50 to 60 kind of degrees, because it's underground and it's kind of cool. When you want to heat your water, you're going to want it closer to 100, 110 degrees. And so that difference between the 60 and 100 to 110 degrees, you can either use, fossil fuels to heat it up, or you can use an electric hot water heater, or you can use the sun. The sun is remarkable in its ability to heat hot water. And so it just basically, there's coils in those panels, and the water is pumped up. It circulates through the coils. When the sun is hitting the panels, it warms them up, and it brings the water temperature up. It can bring it up in excess of 120 degrees, and you have to kind of mix it with cooler water, but it all works fine. It's been a wonderful system. And again, it's technically part of the efficiency. And if you have children, you take a lot of showers or use a lot of hot water, it's a great energy savings there. But then we also have the photovoltaics. So photovoltaic is the term of art for actually using the sun to generate electrons, generate electricity. And looking at the slide to the right, the picture to the right, the larger solar system we put on in 2009, I think I misquoted in the video. It's approximately about 7.2 kilowatts, 36 sharp panels, 198 watt panels that were put on. And at that time, TVA, to their credit, was giving quite a good incentive. Prices were higher back in 2009 for solar, and so they were incentivized. They were giving, it was effectively a feed-in tariff. They were giving like 12 cents above the retail rate for customers that were putting these panels on and selling back to their system. And so they had a buy all, sell all agreement. And we are in a 20-year contract with them. The first 10 years they gave the premium, and the second 10 years they agreed to give retail value of the power. And so that is the system to the right. The system to the left, in 2019-20, we added an addition onto the house. And with that addition, we added, we added the panels that you see there, which were about, I think they're 12 330 watt REC panels. And those panels, because TVA had effectively killed the program, TVA turned hostile towards rooftop solar and has been really quite an impediment in the TVA service territory in discouraging people from using rooftop solar. They really don't do anything to support it anymore. And so it's better to actually capture the power in a storage system and then use it to offset your load, or what we'll get into in a little bit about time of use rates. But this system is the most recent, and it's a 3.9. I think I called it a 3.4 in the video, but it's 3.9. It's correct in the blog. And so this is where you really get to capture the sun and have the sun create electricity for you, and your house becomes a little power plant. So let's go on to the next slide. Okay, so back in the day when people were first playing with solar, it used to be that if you wanted to have a storage system, you would have to get a lead acid battery pack. And those were the same kind of batteries that you'd see in boats or in your automobile. And there was a lot of maintenance to them, and they were heavy and they were bulky, and but a lot of early adopters set up solar and storage using lead acid batteries. The technology is really advanced, and now you see these two white structures that say Tesla on them. Those are lithium ion storage units. Each one is about 13.5 kilowatt hours of storage, so a total of 27 kilowatt hours of storage. And those new panels basically feed these power walls when the sun is out, and are able to fill them, and they give us the ability to have storage. And you can also see above them are the inverters. There's an inverter on the left and an inverter on the right, and then the whole system, and then there's an electric car charger there to the right also. So this is the sort of the brains of the system in the house, but storage really gives you more flexibility. You can have a solar system without storage, but with storage, it gives you the ability that if the utility disrupts you, the power goes out, you can actually power the house. And with these two power walls, you figure the average home uses roughly, 30 kilowatt hours a day, maybe a little bit more depending on usage patterns. This is 27 kilowatt hours of storage with a little bit of, controlling our home and everything. These power walls can get us through a whole day pretty easy. And then again, when the sun is out, they're getting replenished. The original system that we had from TVA wouldn't let you store it. You had to sell it all back to them. And when, from 2009 until we added these in 2020, if the power went out with the original TVA system in the neighborhood, our power went out too, even though we had this solar on the house, because we were having to sell it all back, everything got shut down. With the addition of these power walls, we now have the ability to store the power from the new solar system. And then we went back and argued the case with the local power company, Knoxville Electric Utility Board and TVA, to say that if they break their end of the deal and they're no longer keeping the grid up, I can now have that whole 7.2 kilowatt system also feed into the power walls, so that we're getting basically 11 kilowatt of electricity that can feed into these things if the power goes out. And we've had a couple of times where the power has been out for extended period of time. Most of the time the power is there. If we do have outages, usually just in a few minutes, but we've had a couple of times where it's been hour long or more. All right, let's go on to the next one. So
we have two electric cars that basically are powered from home. This is a standard electric car charger for the Tesla, and you can just come home at night, plug your car in, and you can then tell the car when you want to draw the power from the grid. And that's very important because you don't want to be charging when the utility is at its peak, because that both costs the utility more and puts more pressure on the system. But having the ability at home to charge means you never have to go to the gas station anymore. You don't have to, you can do everything at home. Just come in, tell the car when you want, what charge state you want it to be when you leave in the morning, and it'll charge itself up overnight on an off-peak time that allows you to take advantage of getting the most cost-effective and cleanest power.
So this is a point I really want to emphasize. And this is, I would say, sort of home ownership 2.0, moving beyond just sort of the standard way that we have used the grid. Because as we electrify everything, and that means electrifying mobility and transportation, we are going to have to become smarter consumers, because we cannot have electric cars and come in on a 5 o'clock on an August afternoon when it's burning hot outside and plug our cars in and say, okay, let's draw as much power, let's charge our car up. We're going to have to be thoughtful about charging what's called on peak and off peak. And so, and this will get into what we'll talk about here in a little bit more in a minute about time of use rates, but the utility has a peak. Usually what happens is in the summer, the power builds during the day, and then by the afternoon, when everybody's running the air conditioner, the temperatures are really high, the utility starts to peak in the afternoon, and that peak carries over into the early evening. For our area, it roughly runs in the summer from 2 o'clock in the afternoon till about 8 o'clock at night. That's a time where you really want to, if you're working with the utility and you're trying to get the most energy efficient, cleanest power, because remember, as the utility goes up to supply that power, they start using older and dirtier fossil plants, peaking units that are not as efficient as their baseload units or their mid-merit or mid-run units. And so as that as that grid starts to work harder, we're going to need to be smarter about how we use it. So particularly with electric cars, all electric cars come with the ability to set the time to charge. So you can come in at 5 in the afternoon and plug your car in so you don't forget to charge it overnight, but you can set your car to where it'll charge starting at, say, 11 or 12 at night and be ready to go first thing in the morning for you. And that way you're staying off the peak and you're also taking advantage of cleaner power. So EVs, electric vehicles, have very large batteries, and it takes a lot of juice. And so I think I told you that when we originally started building our house, we wanted to go towards net zero. We were getting there, but around 2010, 2011, we began particularly after the Gulf oil spill, the big spill in the Gulf of Mexico. I said, we don't want to drive fossil fuel cars anymore. We've got to get away from this. This is horrible. And so we initially started playing around with a Nissan Leaf. We leased one. And when we started plugging into their house, we saw, okay, this is going to use more energy in our home. Now that energy is more efficient and cleaner than going to the gas station. It is easier to do. It saves you money because electricity is about 1/3 of the cost of fossil fuels on a mile per gallon sort of basis. And so there's all kinds of reasons why you should electrify mobility if you can, as quick as you can, because it saves you money, it's cleaner, it's just so much better for the environment, and it's easier on your budget, and you can integrate it into your home where you don't have to go to gas stations. There's virtually no maintenance. I could go on and on about electric vehicles, but there's a lot of advantages to it. But as we do that, as more and more people are doing that, we've got to work with the utilities about how and when we charge. So the last thing I want to share with you is a little bit about integrating the solar, the storage, the electric vehicles, the energy efficiency savings, all into this concept of using what are called time of use rates. And many utilities now are offering that. So let's talk a little bit about that with the next video.
So this is the Tesla app that basically gives you a visualization of what is happening with your solar system. This is tied only to the 3.4 kilowatt system because that's the one that's behind the meter, and that's what's feeding the Tesla power walls. Sort of a schematic of the solar panels. This is the schematic of the power walls, and then this is representing what is going to the home, and then this line would be what is going to the grid. We have entered into agreement with the local power company, Knoxville Utility Board, where we are using time of use rates. They give us a designated period, both in the winter of the year and the summer of the year, to where for 6 hours, they consider it peak. They are going to charge me a higher electric rate per kilowatt hour if I use power in those 6 hours. I use the power wall and the solar system to make this house go off the grid during those 6 hours of being on peak. By going off the system during peak, you're basically taking some of that pressure off. I'm working with the utility as a partner. All these things help lower their system cost for electricity. And so they pass that savings on to me as a customer.
All right. So let me give you the first disclaimer. If you have a solar house, you don't have to have the same hair that I do. That is not from where I plug my finger into the light socket where my hair pops out. So that's just a disclaimer there in that last shot. But so time of use rates. So you can do time of use rates completely independent of having a solar system or batteries or anything. You can just dial down, say, not using your washer and dryer during the peak times, sort of backing off of some of your energy use. So you can take advantage of it if you just have an energy efficient home. You don't have to have solar or anything. And many times you can actually save money just by working with the utility that way. But with the integrated home that we're modeling here with my house and all the things that we've done, you can actually, like I say in the video, make your house disappear from the grid during those peak times which really then saves you money, saves the utility money. Make sure that you're not using the dirtiest power sources during those peak times. And it's a great opportunity to basically get in sync with what needs to happen with the utility. And it helps the overall grid. Not only does it save us money, but it helps save for KUB, Knoxville Utility Board, it saves them money. And so across the region, many companies are now, utility companies now providing time of use rates. So with that, let me just say this in closing, and then we want to open it up for questions. I want to emphasize each step along the way is important. Please start with energy efficiency first. It is the most important thing you can do. It's the most environmentally important thing you can do. It's the most economically important thing you can do. And it actually is the most important thing for society, for us all to squeeze every bit of work out of each kilowatt that we can, kilowatt hour that we can. Then if you can step up and do some other things, this is to model for you. I know that not everybody's going to be able to do this, but what we are advocating for is policies, incentives. This country, if we get on the proper commitment to solve the climate crisis, these technologies are now real. We're demonstrating to you in real time. I have no regrets for anything that I've invested in so far. And I think as the technology continues to improve, these are going to become much more widespread. And we need to all be advocating for policies that allow more and more of these technologies, because this is what's going to make the grid operate in from the individual household all the way through to the big industrial customers working with the utilities. We need to all be part of this solution. This is part of the clean energy generation. Start where you can with what you can. Work to take advantage of these incentives that are coming from the Inflation Reduction Act, and help make a difference by making your home cleaner, safer, more healthy, and be part of the solution by investing in the energy efficiency opportunities. And then as more incentives come along and people have more resources that they can invest in these other things, let's do it. So with that, let me stop. I think we're going to open it up for questions, and please visit our blog. Everything I've talked about is on the blog, lots of links to the various companies, and we're eager to continue to dialogue with anybody. And as we do more of these webinars, we're going to be profiling more and more different homes, different solutions and everything. This is just one, but we wanted to give you a sense of what sort of a fully integrated house with the utility, with all these technologies, can look like. So thank you very much, and look forward to questions.
So we are going into the question and answer period. Now, again, as a reminder, if you have a question, please use the Q&A box at the bottom of the Zoom window, and we're going to try to get through as many questions as we can. While you're submitting questions, I just want to give a reminder to go to the link that is on the screen here, cleanenergy.org/CEG-take-action, and it is also in the chat, in the Zoom chat. And you can find different ways that you can get involved in the clean energy generation there. Starting by signing up to join as a member of the clean energy generation, telling your story about why you care, finding some resources about how you can help spread the word to others, getting involved in a local clean energy generation team, and then also finding resources, informational resources that you can share with your friends and family. So with that, let's get into the questions. So our first question is from Larry. He asks, do you recommend sealing around old single pane windows or just getting new double pane windows? Which is better from a money saving and carbon reducing perspective? So Steve,
Yeah. I think that the double pane really make a big difference. I understand that now there are some historic homes that have limitations about what you can do and this, that, and the other, but I would strongly encourage, we noticed just a dramatic change in, and it couldn't have been accomplished just by sealing. It really, when you have the double pane windows with sort of the argon gas in between them, it makes a huge difference. And windows are a great loss, you know, of heating and cooling. And, you know, again, it's going to, we're not in the most northern climate. So, you know, but it does make a big difference. I strongly would advocate for double pane.
I can add to, from a money saving perspective, dollars invested to, you know, energy saved. I imagine ceiling, you're going to get more bang for your buck, but you are going to leave a lot on the table in terms of energy saving, but also comfort. I know when in my house, when we switched from our old single panes to new double panes, a side benefit that we saw was we didn't have all the condensation on the windows that we used to have with the single panes, where we'd wake up and there'd be, you know, water droplets all over the windows. And so that seemed to help from a you know, a kind of air quality perspective too.
Yeah,
So
and in the South, there is a lot of heat gain too that gets with a lot of the double pane actually have done a really good job of decreasing the heat gain through the windows. So it cuts both ways, but yeah. All right.
All right, here's a second question, kind of a follow-up from Bill. Steve, what's the payback time? How do you talk about the payback time for your clean energy investments at home?
Okay, well, so it's a good question. I would not invest in putting solar on a home that if you're not going to live there for more than 5 years. I think that to me, it's really questionable about whether that would be a good strategic investment. Payback is an interesting question because we spend money on all kinds of things, and everybody has different values. And so I have not looked at this in the sense that I am seeking a short-term payback. The way I look at it is I have made these strategic investments to increase the comfort of my and health of my home. I get a dividend every month from both the energy savings and from what the solar does. And we've been in this house since 2006 with the first, you know, retrofit starting in the 2008 timeframe. So many of the retrofits have paid back over time. The utility has monkeyed with us on the paybacks that they're willing to do on certain things. And so I am aware that a lot of people want to sort of calculate out this, that, and the other, but I would consider, you know, this an investment in home health and comfort being part of the solution, which is really priceless. And then the other piece of the equation that a lot of people are beginning to understand more and more is this increases the value of your home if you sell it, because you're able to point to significant reductions on energy bills and also the value of having these technologies and having the ability to where, you know, the lights don't go out at our house like they do in other places. So the payback is a slippery question. These have been, you know, some of these investments have been significant, but given that this is, you know, our home for the foreseeable future, and we've been here for a long time, you know, and the monthly dividends are more than worth it in my opinion. I have no regrets for anything we've invested in.
I'll just say too, SACE, one of the follow-up materials that SACE will send to everyone on this webinar is details on the financial incentives that are available through the Inflation Reduction Act for home energy improvements. And, you know, that includes the tax credits that are available now, and also the rebate programs that are going to be available likely next year. Some of those rebate programs, depending on your income, can cover up to 100% of the cost of the energy efficiency measures. So you would have it's impossible to find a better return on investment when you know, there's large incentives like that available. Let's see. Let's go to the next question. This is from Mary. How do I find a reputable and affordable solar installer?
Well, that's a good question, because unfortunately in most of the southeastern states, there has been a lot of pressure put on local installers. It depends on where you are, and there have been some, use a good English term, dodgy solar installers that have popped up to try to manipulate people. I think it's very important to, get multiple quotes if possible. I'm not going to recommend anybody right here online, but you're welcome to reach out to us, and we will try to, point you in the direction of some folks that we know. But I think you just need to do good research. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is, because unfortunately in the Southeast, most of the utilities, matter of fact, outside of Florida, there's really not a solid net metering program in the classic sense that's really well done. And a lot of the programs are not as we would call fair and valuable. The utilities in the Southeast don't tend to support rooftop solar like other parts of the country. So if somebody comes and really gives you some, amazing sweetheart deal, you may want to be a little suspect, because like I say, these are longer term arrangements. And if they tell you that, the system's going to pay back in 3 years or something like that, they're probably selling you, misinformation.
I'll say, just as an add-on, when people ask me that question about recommending solar installers, I'll typically recommend to look for businesses that are members of business associations or trade associations, or have certain certifications. Particularly, I'll point toward looking for an installer that is certified by NABCEP. That's the North American Board of Certified Energy Practitioners, NABCEP. I live in South Carolina, so I will point people toward, looking for businesses that are active in the solar business community, who are members of, for example, the South Carolina Solar Council, or the Carolina Clean Energy Business Association, or something like that. So, those are some of the places where you might look. All right, our next question, I'm going to combine a couple questions here. Would you buy the solar batteries? This is from Robert. Would you buy the solar batteries if your utility accepted net metering? And I'm also going to combine, let's see, another question here. Let me find it. From Nina. Does Dominion Energy South Carolina limit behind the grid installations? So, Steve, if you don't mind talking about, how to treat behind the meter and batteries and net metering, I can talk about Nina's question.
Yeah. So obviously, if you have a net metered system, you are getting a fair rate for the excess power, and putting it into a battery will not save you as much money, because right now on the 3.9 system that I put up in 2020, if I sold that back to the local utility in the TVA, they would only give me like 2 cents a kilowatt hour for it, or even less. It's ridiculous. It's not rational. It's not fair. It's really a draconian effort on the part of the utility to devalue what's going on. And they've established, TVA is particularly bad about this, has established a lot of bad rhetoric. Alabama Power is the same way. I mean, there's a number of utilities in the Southeast that are hostile to customers generating. So that's one of the reasons. But remember, by having the batteries, it opens up the opportunity to, if the system goes down, the utility system goes down, you actually can keep your lights on. So that resiliency and reliability is a factor that is also in play. And then If your utility does offer time of use rates, you can use those batteries very strategically to arbitrage, so to speak, the different rate structures that are available, so you can make your house disappear and maximize the value savings for that. So it's not a simple answer like yes or no. I think your premise is correct that it's less valuable if your utility is giving you a fair price, a net metered price, but there are these other options that I think you're going to forego if you don't have the batteries. And I think over time, now let me just say this, we are going to see an increase in the number of electric vehicles that are ultimately going to be able to play that role as battery storage. You can already see the Ford Lightning is talking about being able to plug your house into the truck. And I think we will see increasingly more electric vehicles, because remember, my two power walls together equal 27 kilowatt hours of power. We have two Teslas. Each Tesla has about a 75 kilowatt hour battery in them. So that's like 3 times almost the size of the two power walls, right? So what we're probably going to see more and more of is that you're going to be able to potentially bring your electric vehicle in not only as electric mobility, but if you're really strategic about it, you may be able to use an arbitrage, off of the battery of the car, depending on as more of them open up to do what's called vehicle to grid interactions. So keep an eye on that. But again, we have no regrets right now because Tesla doesn't allow their cars to sell back onto the grid. They don't have a two-way system, and we'll see how that goes over time. Chris, you want to answer the other one?
Yeah, and so Nina had a question particularly about Dominion Energy, South Carolina. And, I would say I'm not sure the answer to the question of if they are able to limit kind of what goes on behind the meter or not. However, they do currently have a good, they do offer good compensation through their solar choice tariff, which has customers on a time of use rate similar to what Steve is talking about. This is their new tariff that was created, I guess it was probably 2 or 3 years ago, and maybe 4 at this point. And anyway, so it moves customers onto a time of use rate, and you get basically for, any energy you put, excess energy you put back on the grid at peak hours, you get credited a higher rate, and energy you put back on the grid at non-peak hours, you get credited at a lower rate. And so it provides, I think, that was getting that tariff established. SACE was very involved in that at the South Carolina Public Service Commission. And I think our expert that we put forth said that captured about 90% of the value of traditional one-to-one net metering. So it's a fairly beneficial program. So I don't know that I would advocate on a pure financial savings point of view to necessarily do batteries, but there are other reasons why you might want to be looking at batteries also. So that's true for Dominion Energy, and I think elements of that are probably true for other utilities across the region too. Let's see.
I think we're coming up at 2:30, but I think we're prepared to stay a little longer and answer some more questions, folks that are able to stay on. So we're eager to answer questions for a little bit longer. So please submit them, and we'll go with you longer if you can stay. Otherwise, people who have to leave, the video will be available. And again, check out the blog that is already up on the website, because it has a lot of the information that we talked through.
Yeah, and also we'll be sending you a recording and some follow-up resources. So thank you for joining if you have to go. But yeah, we'll keep going with Q&A for a little bit. So this is from Ronald. Electric heat pump systems are being promoted as much more efficient than natural gas. Can they totally replace combined gas and heat pump systems in the Southeast, especially for winter heating? I live in Southwest.
Absolutely. No, the technology, there was a period of time with some of the early heat pumps that as the temperature dropped, that they would flip into what they called sort of a resistance mode or an emergency mode, where they would actually go from being pretty efficient to being inefficient. much of that technology has modified, and now heat pumps are absolutely the way to go. And our home is all electric. We literally not only had them disconnect the gas line, but we had them pull the line completely out of the yard because we didn't want anything to do with it. I think that the heat pumps, particularly in the Southeast, are tremendously valuable, so that you should have no concerns with a modern heat pump to be able to completely eliminate your fossil system and go all electric. And you'll find that they're more comfortable. In many ways, I think they're more responsive. And, we actually added a mini split onto the addition because we have a geothermal heat pump. I didn't get into that in the video, but we added a geothermal heat pump to the house, which is extremely efficient. But it was when we added the extra square footage on the addition, it exceeded the capacity of the system we have. So we put a mini split heat pump, and it's been wonderful, been very comfortable, and it's worked very well, even in the cold temperatures.
The next question is about the solar hot water heating system, Steve. This is an anonymous question. Solar heating panels are expensive in climate zones where there's freezing. Many people recommend to add more solar electric PV rather than using solar heating. What was your reasoning?
Well, I don't know what they're talking about as far as solar thermal freezing. We've had no problem with the Schuko system that we've had on the house since, again, it was one of the first things we did. It was put on in 2008. The only problem we had was if you notice in those pictures, there's a very large oak tree, and we did have a branch that cracked one of the panels that we had to replace when a branch fell off. But other than that, it's been seamless, and we've had temperatures down near zero, and the heat pump, the solar thermal system has worked fine. I still think that everybody, call me old-fashioned, but every single day of my life, the sun has come up in the east and it's set in the west. It's one of the most reliable sources of power we have. The whole planet before humans was powered by the sun, continues to be powered by the sun. Everything is really related to the sun. And I believe that as humans, we need to efficiently use the power from our nearest star. And I believe that every home should have, we should capture the heat from the sun first and foremost for hot water. There are countries, I think Israel, you can't even build a house now without solar thermal on it. And there's a number of places that they're becoming requirements, because it doesn't make sense to use electricity to heat water if the sun is out. It just doesn't make sense at all. And our systems work very, very well. So I'm not sure where the person that's asking the question got the information, but I'm a strong believer in solar thermal. You can now get heat pump hot water heaters. So it's going to be interesting to see the efficiency associated with those. Those are coming onto the market. So I honestly haven't done the deep dive on those to compare them because we had already made the investment. But heating water with the sun just makes a lot of sense, because the sun's out there most of the time, and it's just, it's reliable, particularly in the Southeast. We have this phenomenal solar resource, and we should be taking more advantage of it. I could see if you lived in, the Pacific Northwest or, Maine or something, you might question it. But down here, it just doesn't make any sense not to take advantage of the sun.
I'm going to do speed round through a couple comments and questions. Bruce makes a comment that with respect to advocacy efforts, collecting and sharing personal success stories like yours, Steve, could be useful. And he asks if we're planning to try to do that. So Bruce, and for everyone on the call, yes, absolutely. We want your success story. I know that folks on this call, I see Kent, for example, and others have already shared if you've done something in your home, or if you see things happening in your community. If you see a solar install happening in your community, or see electric vehicle chargers going up, Yeah, absolutely. We want to hear about it. We want to put a spotlight on it, and your passion for what's happening in your community and in your home will be contagious and help others do the same thing. So please do share your story. The link is on the screen right now, cleanenergy.org/CEG-take-action. And it's in the chat also. Please submit your story there and let us know. We are,
Yeah.
Steve?
Kristen, I want to reinforce that. The whole point of the clean energy generation is to be pointing to solutions that give people a sense that we can change the world. We can make a difference. We can solve this crisis. This isn't to brag about any one person's home or any one. It's to share with everybody else that these solutions are real. They're not fairy dust. They work. They're real. They actually, this is how we're going to do it, folks. This is how we're going to, claw back from the brink of going over this cliff, is that we've got to all pull together and all join hands and reinforce each other and learn from each other and learn from what works and model it and create market demand for real solutions, and, stop using the stuff that's being pushed at us all the time that is part of the problem. The whole point of the clean energy generation is to be part of the solution instead of being part of the problem. So please share the stories and amplify the stories that you hear, and let people know that this stuff really works. It's not imaginary. We can solve this. Humans got us into this situation. We control our own destiny here. We have our hands on the wheel. We can drive ourselves over a cliff, or we can change course and solve this problem. And that's what we've got to all do. And that's what being part of the clean energy generation is all about, being a generational change.
Another quick question is, if we as community leaders are working on community environmental justice issues and matters in our communities, will we at SACE be willing to work or collaborate with other community nonprofit organizations on projects, et cetera? And I'll just reinforce, yes, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to collaborate. Please be in touch, and let's see how we can work together. Then, all right, the next question is, Steve, for you, are the behind the grid panels serving the same electrical loads as the grid, or are your my question was, if your power walls are they serving the whole house, or are they just certain things like your refrigerator and things like that for emergencies?
Yeah, so it's a great question. So we have two two things that are like, we have a small like sauna in the house that can use, that's a, if the power was out and we were totally on the power walls, our sauna would not be available to us. I mean, but every other circuit on the house is connected. Now, when we did have some of the longer outages, we were like, my wife wouldn't use dry her clothes, when we were in an outage situation, or, run, maybe the dishwasher. I mean, we could, the circuits are applied, but so you would be smart, you'd want to be smart about that. But yes, the power walls can carry every circuit just about through the house if needed. And again, with a sunny day, generating 11 kilowatts of power that are fed into the power walls, because like I say, what historically would just go off system, we routed back into the power walls. So both of the solar systems, when the power is out, feed the power walls. That gives us a lot of juice to be able to pretty much live a normal day, because we can generate more power than we'd use if we were just being smart about it. So yes, it does work. But some people with power walls will actually limit the circuits. But you know, all of our refrigerators and freezers and stuff are definitely wired in, because that's one of the most frustrating things is when your power goes out, you start having food spoil on you.
All right, here's a comment from Carol. Storm wind. This is a follow-up, I think, to our conversation about or question about adding new windows or just sealing around existing old windows. Carol offers that storm windows added to well looked after old windows give better energy efficiency than double glazing and don't need replacing. Like new windows now have an average replacement time of 15 years. Thank you for that contribution, Carol. And then our next question, Martha asks, what does TVA or our local power companies need to do to get the time of day pricing established?
Well, so time of day, it's really time of use is, I think, is the term of art that they use. I think if you would check with your local power company, many of them are offering the time of use as a pilot. But it is a very good question that we need to put broader pressure on TVA as the lead entity, and make sure that all of the local power companies are providing this option. Unfortunately, many of the local power companies continue to sort of want to have this mindset of out of sight, out of mind. We don't want our customers really having to worry about electricity. They've got a lot of other things to worry about. I think we've got to move beyond that, because with the Internet of Things, with smart thermostats, with increasingly smart appliances, with us electrifying everything, with us going to electric vehicles, the utilities have a responsibility to help us understand how their system works more, and to really work with us to make us smart consumers, as well as just having smart meters. They'll put a smart meter on your house, but then they don't really spend much time educating you about, how their system works and stuff. And I think increasingly, if we're going to solve this problem, you don't need to fret about it all day long, but you need to at least be aware. And I think as with artificial intelligence and some of the other things that are coming along, your home is going to become much, much smarter, and is going to be able to manage these, time of use rates using smart thermostats, smart appliances, and other things. And that people should have the option, and the utilities should be working to help us be smarter consumers. So I share your desire to push harder, and we're certainly going to work on it.
The next question is from Philippe, who asks, many big cities are banning wood stoves because of particulate pollution. Oregon requires catalytic filters. Firewood in Tennessee and many surrounding states is very abundant. We heat with wood in the winter, which helps us balance our energy budget for our panels and batteries and electric car. Is this sustainable long-term in the Southeast? And should people add a wood stove to their renovation or new construction? Do you want to handle talking about wood stoves, Steve?
Well, no, it's a very good question. We do have a wood stove. Now, we don't utilize it much, because I do think that there are air quality issues, and as the individual points out, we have a catalytic unit on it that really helps with the afterburn and other things like that reduce that air pollution. But there's a lot of people that operate wood stoves that haven't invested in updated technology. And, if you live in a suburban neighborhood or something, the whole neighborhood can be impacted by one person, running their wood stove inappropriately, and the air quality can degenerate. So I think, again, there's a lot of education there. I think from a resilience point of view, if you have the ability to have a wood stove, and if there's really, a super long extended outage, and stuff like that. I think it's a good backup investment. The reliability of the U.S. grid is pretty remarkable compared to a lot of other countries. We take it for granted, and I think there's a lot of people that probably over rely on their wood stoves, and they could. I think that as we clean the grid up, and we're doing that every single day, the grid is getting cleaner. I think that it's going to be harder and harder to justify a wood stove if you've got reliable electrical power that's coming from clean energy sources. But I fault no one for having them and taking advantage of them, particularly if they've gone the extra distance to have a clean one. But it's a good question, and there is wood in the South. It's plentiful, and yeah, I don't see any fault in it. I'm just not sure that many people are going to have to be overly reliant on it. Probably depends on where you are and how reliable your grid is.
All right, the next question is from Bruce. He asks if we're finding that sellers of appliances that qualify for tax credits or the rebates that will be available next year are up to speed and using that information in their marketing. Steve, do you want to address that?
Yeah, I think it's a mixed bag, but I think generally it's not as out there as it needs to be. We're hoping that when the states consolidate what their rebate programs are, that's going to be an added incentive, and that we're gonna see more proactive moves by retailers and manufacturers to promote this. Look, the federal government has finally stepped up to the plate and is providing resources towards the scale that we need to solve this problem. And it's shame on us as consumers if we don't take advantage of this. And we will do everything we can and continue to educate. I think we all need to ask, the Home Depots, the Lowe's, and the other big retail suppliers, to do more to educate people. But quite honestly, the past year, there's been a lot of struggle to get everything in place, and there's still rules of the road being defined. So I'm hoping as the rules get defined and we have a long runway, that the retailers and manufacturers are gonna really step up to the plate and help educate consumers, because they point of sale education is going to be a huge part of helping people take that next step up in efficiency.
And I'll just add too, the clean energy generation is about all of us playing our part however we can to fit into helping accelerate the transition so that we can all benefit from clean energy. And so, one of those roles is going to be is education for professionals. So, if you're someone who is a business owner, if you know a business owner who is in a trade involving the appliances, if you know somebody who works at the technical college that is teaching trades, that's a great opportunity to just have a conversation and see if they're aware of what's available and how you can help share information. So if that's you, please let us know if we can provide you with any information so you can help facilitate folks having the information they need to be able to access the financial incentives and spread the word about what the opportunities are. Let's see. The next question is from Lisa. She asks, she lives in a camper and wants to transition to solar when she moves. Next time she moves, what's the best way to do solar for a camper? Do you want to address that, Steve?
Yeah, I mean, there are a number of smaller systems that are sort of dedicated for RV situations and stuff. So there's a lot of opportunities there to look at. I'm not particularly familiar with it. I mean, I've done some solar on boats and stuff like that, less so on RV campers, but I think it's all very similar. I mean, you just need to be able to have a good access point and take advantage of, of what your utilizations are. And I think there are smaller systems that are out there for those type of applications. I can't add a lot to that.
I remember seeing, the only thing I can add is I just remember seeing, maybe not helpful for you, Lisa, I'm not sure, but I remember seeing in the news sometime in the last couple of years that there's an electric camper manufacturer opening up shop in Western North Carolina who'll be producing all electric RVs in the Southeast, which is exciting. Oh, and there's an electric Airstream, I believe. I think they started making an electric model, which is pretty neat. All right, well, I think we're going to have to wrap up now. Thank you all for attending. Thank you for submitting great questions. As I have said previously, we'll share a recording of the webinar with you, some follow-up resources with you, informational resources, and of course, we would appreciate you, if you haven't already, going to the links that are in the chat. They'll be in your email also, so you can sign up to get involved with the clean energy generation. And yeah, we'll be in touch. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.